Hey alchemists, I want to talk to you about the full moon that we have in the sign of Scorpio tomorrow, May the 1st at 11 degrees. We have the sun at 11 degrees of Taurus, the moon at 11 degrees of Scorpio, and both the sun and the moon are doing a lot of conversations, a lot of astrological aspects with the other planets. So I'm going to talk about these separately. And one important piece of information is that in a Scorpio full moon, it is the moment that we also, from the Buddhist tradition, celebrate the enlightenment of the Buddha, and also the time of his transcendence of this human plane. So it is interesting that Siddhartha Gautama reached his enlightenment on a Scorpio full moon after having had to face his deepest shadows and receiving like attacks of his own ego, of letting go of his attachments and his ego in order to reach that higher state of awareness, of consciousness. So it is in these full moons that we're also reminded that we can go through the parts of ourselves that are in those shadows, so that we can learn from them and then extract wisdom that make us reach a higher state of awareness and consciousness in our lives. So it is a very powerful, beautiful energy, while at the same time it can be very intense and very it's like an energy that can connect us to our deepest pain points as well. So there's this duality that can arise from these very intense Scorpio full moons. Scorpio as an energy has to do with transformation, alchemy, with purging what needs to be let go. And because the moon is a very sensitive planet, is a very sensitive energy in our being that has to do with our childhoods, with our emotions, with the parts of ourselves that want to feel safe, and the mechanisms that we have developed in our life in order to keep ourselves safe. Scorpio comes and confronts us to those things, to see if they are truly aligned with our soul path, with what we want to be experiencing as human beings, and also to see how much we have matured these aspects in our lives. Because many times when we have lived traumas or things that have like needed for us to create these protective mechanisms, as we grow up into adults and we mature into adults, we tend to bring those same mechanisms into our lives, and perhaps those no longer serve us for the version that we are in this moment. So because Pluto and Mars are the rulers of Scorpio, and the sun and the moon are squaring Pluto in Aquarius, this brings much more intensity to the full moon. A full moon in Scorpio is already very intense. It is usually felt similar as an eclipse, and because it is in a square to Pluto in Aquarius, this is going to be felt even more. And Pluto in Aquarius is this energy that is bringing a lot of transformation for us to go higher, to expand our consciousness. It is like a phoenix type of energy. So it is also confronting the parts of ourselves that are not authentic to who we truly are. We also just had Uranus go into Gemini on the 25th of April. So these are all energies about truth, about authenticity, about expressing who we truly are on our deepest level. So anything that is not aligned with truth in our being may show up in this full moon, for it to be recognized, for it to be seen, for it to be felt, and for it to be transformed. Let's take into account also that the moon at 11 degrees of Scorpio is forming what we call in astrology a yod, or a finger of God. And this happens when the moon is in a quincunx, a 150 degree angle to, in this case, Venus, which is at 9 degrees of Gemini, and doing another quincunx to Saturn that is at 9 degrees of Aries. And both Saturn and Venus are also forming a sextile. So this aspect in astrology can be felt very uncomfortable. It can be felt like things that we are feeling that we need to do, but we don't necessarily know how to do. And it may feel like we don't have all the tools or all the resources to do it, but still there's a calling, there's a feeling inside that is saying like, yes, let's go, let's do it. However, because it's these energies, both Venus and Saturn, that are involved in this finger of God, Saturn oftentimes has to do with hardening of emotions. And so perhaps what we are seeing or feeling in this uncomfort has to do with connecting with our deepest emotions that may bring some sense of intensity or some pain or some memory that we don't want to face. While at the same time, because Venus is involved, it may have to do with relationships, with the relationship that we have with ourselves, with the relationship we have with others, or any type of relationship we have with any aspect of life. It could be our work, it could be family, it could be any type of attachment or addiction or anything that has been going on in our life that has caused some type of pain or attachment, and that in this moment we're asked to connect to that. But there may be like this process of breaking through the ice, breaking through the armor, breaking through the shield that has been formed, that is protecting those parts of ourselves for a reason. And this full moon brings that confrontation to these things, especially with the intensity of the squaring to Pluto. And we also have Mars, which is the other ruler of Scorpio, forming a square to Jupiter, expanding all of this even more. And what Mars in Aries, square Jupiter in Cancer may expand is a lot of our childhood repressed emotions, repressed traumas, and things that we have gone through in our lives. And this may trigger a lot of anger, a lot of rage, a lot of irritation and frustration to the surface. So let's just be aware if any of these things come up to the surface, because it's information that we can use to transmute and transform. This is a beautiful energy of transformation. So let's use our power of alchemy to look at the triggers and see what information they're bringing into our lives. Let's take into account also that these energies that we're going through, with Uranus just entering Gemini and this quincunx of Venus with the moon, Venus also in Gemini, it also brings up a lot of these themes around duality. And we have Jupiter in Cancer, which gives us a bit of these aspects of duality. While Jupiter is very expansive and fiery and confident, in Cancer it can be more introspective, more emotional expression, more about taking care, about seeing aspects of the unseen. And Venus also in this may bring this aspects in ourselves that are taking roles in our lives, and that we need to look at what those roles are and how we feel in those roles, and if those are labels even that we have put on ourselves, and perhaps we don't feel comfortable with having those labels of in terms of like what we do in our work, or what people perceive us that we are, or what we perceive ourselves to be. And perhaps there's this this moment of breaking through labels that don't longer serve us, while at the same time it's a moment of looking at the dualities of our light and our shadow, the parts of ourselves that are in conscious awareness and the parts of ourselves that are in unconscious, in the unconscious, and that it's usually through external situations that the light can come in for us to enlighten those parts that are in shadow. So let's just be aware of the dynamics that are happening outside so that we can bring light to those parts of ourselves also. And let's remember that we are alchemists. Let's remember that in this full moon, I think that's the message that we're reminded of, that we have the power to transform and to take anything that is happening in our lives and extract the wisdom, the knowledge that it's bringing into our lives so that we can transform it if we need to, and we can let go of the aspect in that experience that no longer serve us and keep the wisdom and the part of it that will help us in the journey to come. So I hope this information helps. We also have beautiful assistance of Venus in Gemini doing a trine to Pluto in Aquarius. This is a air trine, so it's also about elevation, it's also about understanding and bringing awareness about all these things, while at the same time we have a beautiful trine of the moon with Jupiter in Cancer and also with the North Node in Pisces. So this is a lot about trust, a lot about surrendering and understanding that if there's any decision, that if there's any action that we need to take in this moment and that brings us some type of fear, that we have assistance from our higher selves, from our guides, from the universe, from source, from God, from whatever you tune in with. There is assistance, and if it's felt in your heart that this is something you have to do, take the courage. Saturn, Mars, Chiron, Neptune in Aries are telling us this is a moment of taking action, of being pioneers, of doing things that are out of the box and following your heart, following that fire that is being ignited within you, saying, yes, I want to go this direction. So these beautiful trines of the moon to Jupiter, to the North Node, are invitations to trust, to surrender, and to go feeling that this is aligned for you if it is truly felt in your heart. So if you have any questions, any comments, please let me see them in the comment section in this video, and I'll see you in the next video.